So last year, I asked our graduating grade 12 class which English course they had enjoyed the least. The answer was unanimous, ENG3U. But why? Well, they talked about boredom. They talked about the lack of choice. They spoke of an existential ennui. Okay, I made up the last part, but just because they didn't say it doesn't mean they weren't feeling it. See, I knew because I was feeling it too. The course was really a monstrosity, this thing we had cobbled together with the best of intentions. It was a lot like whatever this thing is. You see, this course was filled with the traditional texts and the traditional tasks that we have always seen in English class. It was all based on the premise that the only things students should do are those things they're likely to see in university. So yeah, being ready for university is important, but is it enough? I think Neil Postman would say no. You see, Neil believed education needed some overarching narrative, some reason for being that transcended the desire for an acceptance letter. And Neil was a big influence on our thinking. Now, my colleague Melissa Metler and I were influenced by other people too, like Rachel and Jamie and Adam and Matthew and Sandra. How? I'm not going to tell you. Instead, I want you to ask them yourselves, because asking good questions is a great way to start anything worth doing. So, we provided our students with 6 questions they could use to make sense of any text. First, how does this thing work? What is its form, its style, its conventions? Next, who is its audience, and what role does the audience play in constructing meaning? Next, the students ask why. Why does this thing exist in the first place? The fact that it exists at all means it represents someone's values, right? Speaking of value messages, the 4th question asks students to examine just that. What are the intended and unintended value messages in this text? Next, students had to think about voice. How does the author's voice shape their understanding of the text? Is that author's voice really a narrator's voice and therefore construction? And can they trust this voice? And finally, and I'd argue most importantly, can you take what you've learned from these texts and make your own thing? Can you tell a good story? Can you create and maintain a vlog? Can you podcast like a pro? So with this much choice, we knew we needed some way of tracking things. So we created a series of badges to do just that. You want to study form and poetry? There's a badge for that. You want to study voices in new media? We've got a badge for that too. With this approach, students come back to those same questions again and again and again. Where do we get the inspiration for the badges? Well, from the English curriculum, of course. Remember that according to the English curriculum, we are to interpret the word text in the widest possible sense. So what does this look like? Well, I don't want my students to just write essays. I want them to be essayists. I want them to write like David Sedaris, or maybe write the next great Friday Night Lights. And what do the students do? Well, that depends on the student. They can do everything from examining traditional novels to deconstructing documentaries to even building interactive narratives. The best part, though, has been the quality of the conversations. I've never had a class demonstrate this level of discourse. One final thought for you. Shakespeare was the ultimate remix artist. I mean, he remixed history and poetry and other people's work and even language itself. Maybe it's time we let our students do the same.